Good evening, dear friends. Today we will finally figure out how to deal with lower back pain. And those who turned on this video while experiencing pain will feel unforgettable, incredible relief after just a few short minutes, which is how long this video lasts. So, finally, the cause of back pain has been revealed. Our domestic scientists tirelessly, day after day, conducted experiments in their laboratories and found out that the main culprits of hernias and back pain are just two muscles. The tension in these muscles, their spasm, causes all the troubles in our lives related to back pain. So how do we get rid of them? They found a solution. What are these muscles? The first muscle is the iliopsoas muscle. Here it is most difficult to heal. We will be a little surprised. The thing is, this muscle consists of two muscles from the lumbar muscle. For those who know Latin, musculus os, as it is called among you, if there are any. The Latins know it by that name. And the second muscle is the iliac muscle, musculus iliacus, if I'm not mistaken. Together they are called the iliopsoas. That's right, a combined muscle fused together like Siamese twins into one muscle, the iliopsoas. What's special about it? This is the part that comes from the lower back, from all the lumbar vertebrae. Don't think I don't know that a person supposedly has 5 lumbar vertebrae. They just didn't fit here. Here's the 5th, just a small part right here. And this rib is from the 12th thoracic vertebra, not from the 5th lumbar. Otherwise, someone might think that... Don't think that way here. So they go like this. It turns out even from here it continues. The iliopsoas muscle. And here are all the nerve roots that branch off from the spinal cord. They pass in close proximity, and some of them go right through this muscle. And when the iliopsoas muscle is tense or in spasm, all of this gets compressed, and exactly the same symptoms often occur as with a hernia. So it can still be confusing. It can be so similar that the nerve gets compressed right here, this large nerve root, and it mimics this pain. That happens. But also when the iliopsoas muscle spasms, conditions arise for injury and destruction of the disc and for the formation of a herniated disc. That happens too. Very often lumbar scoliosis is also accompanied by different lengths and different tones of this muscle. So, when a change occurs, this is the position of the pelvis. Also, on one side it can be shortened and on the other side longer. Also, by working on them, we can align all of this. So, the first is the iliopsoas muscle. Its partner is the quadratus lumborum muscle. From the 12th rib down to the iliac bone, it spreads its fibers, and that's just the first direction of the fibers. The second direction goes from the transverse processes to the iliac bone from all 5 lumbar vertebrae. And the third direction of the fibers goes from the 12th rib to the transverse processes of the vertebrae. Again, it's like a network wrapped around here like a spider. These are the quadratus lumborum muscles located right here. Very often it gets spasms and tension. At the same time, these two structures come closer together, the 12th rib and the iliac bone. And this distance becomes smaller. Sometimes not even one finger, not even the pinky can fit in here. They are so close together, they come closer. How does this happen? Why can they come closer? Because the pelvis changes its position and turns like this. See? And The distance between the 12th rib and the iliac bone becomes smaller. The muscle itself becomes shorter, loses its elasticity, and doesn't allow itself to be stretched. And these, you see, the intervertebral foramina, they become smaller. But here, look how much space there is for the nerve root, you see. What a large intervertebral foramen. But if the pelvis changes position, you see, everything starts to get compressed and there's little space left for the nerve root. It will get compressed because of this. Pain can appear if the pain fibers get irritated. Motor impairment can occur in the form of weakness or paresis, paralysis of the foot, hand, or leg. When the motor part of the nerve root gets compressed. So, what causes the spasm of these two muscles? Can it happen at the same time? Of course it can. And what causes all of this? Ill. Our viewers have a question. The answer to it was received again by our domestic scientists in laboratories studying another muscle. The laboratory studying the gluteus maximus muscle found that when this muscle is weak and its volume decreases, the load that should be present during a step and even just standing still, when we're not moving anywhere, shifts onto these two muscles. The weaker the gluteus maximus muscle is, the more load will be placed on these two muscles. So, using mathematical knowledge, I'll show you how the load changes. The gluteus maximus muscle, everyone more or less knows where it is and roughly knows its function, or rather, its many functions. One of them is participating in walking and stabilizing the pelvis during a step. Together with the gluteus medius, they work together. And if during walking, here we have an average person. While walking, they should be using their gluteus maximus muscle. It's in the back here and should be contracted. At this moment, the iliopsoas muscle in the front is being stretched and, well, without straining too much. The quadratus lumborum muscle is just kept toned. So the main work is right here on the gluteus maximus muscle during the step. That is, for example, on the supporting leg, right here. My glute is working now. On the leg, that's in the air. The iliopsoas muscle is working as well as the quadratus lumborum muscle. It's now working alternately on both sides for me. When one leg is up, it works here. Well, basically, that's it. With fibers in multiple directions, it acts on both right and left sides during movement, using different fibers each time. Well, in short, keep in mind that the gluteus and the iliopsoas muscles work alternately from opposite sides, like 1-2, 1-2, switching back and forth. But the quadratus lumborum muscles work simultaneously on both sides, but with different fibers. And here, my gluteus is working on the supporting leg. The iliopsoas muscle is working on the leg that's in the air. And now, I'm putting my foot on the floor. Now, the load is on both gluteal muscles, on the right and the left. Here, along with the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius is also starting to work. The gluteus maximus is still working here. Here, my leg is lifting off the floor from behind. Here, it's still involved in supporting the leg. Everything is working here too. The oblique muscles and the quadratus. As the leg moves forward, the load shifts from the gluteus to the iliopsoas muscle. At this moment, that is, when my foot is in this position. Well, let's use the sacrum as a reference point. If we take the sacrum pelvis as our guide, or more precisely, the sacrum. So, while my foot is behind the sacrum, my gluteus and iliopsoas are working. Subtitles. In the stretched position, of course, it doesn't lose tone, but right now it's stretched and the load is mostly on the glutes. And now, when my leg starts to move forward, the load shifts from the gluteal muscle to the iliopsoas muscle, first to the lumbar part, then to the iliac part. And the load then shifts from the gluteus medius to the gluteus maximus on the supporting leg. That's the mechanism you see. And at the same time, the quadratus lumborum muscles are working all the time. This is a normal mechanism. If my gluteus maximus isn't strong enough to perform its function, what will happen? When might it not be enough? It might not be enough when I'm standing on one leg, right here like this, on one leg. Then the pelvis will drop a little like this. And in this position, both muscles will start to contract excessively right away, the quadratus lumborum and the iliopsoas muscle. So the first place where my glute might stop working is during support. Second, at the moment when I shift. When I shift my weight onto this leg, that's when an incorrect movement might happen. Here's the pushing movement with the back leg. So very often during a step, this mistake happens, an incorrect movement. When, after I've shifted my weight onto the front leg, I push off with the back leg, and at the same time it still stays straight. At this moment, the pelvis pushes forward excessively, and this lower part of the lower back gets injured. Right here. Because of this push. What should I do? I need my iliopsoas muscle to start working at the moment when my foot goes up on the toe. That is, during a step, it's important that when your foot goes up on the toe, your leg starts to bend at that moment and doesn't stay straight. If you try to put your straight leg on the toe, either your pelvis will start to lift up, you'll lean to the opposite side, or your pelvis will move excessively forward. That's why, along with the movement of the leg, when it goes up on the toe, the leg shouldn't stay straight, but should start to bend. And the iliopsoas muscle should start working. It's quite a complex mechanism. But can you really keep track of that? Someone who has no coordination at all would say that. Of course not. That's why, to avoid making life more complicated, because walking and changing your gait require certain coordination, first exercises and then training. So, to begin with, we'll just make life easier for ourselves. Make it so that all of this doesn't hurt. To do this, we'll simply relieve the spasm from what's excessively tense. That's the quadratus lumborum and the iliopsoas muscle, and we'll slightly tone up what's not tense enough. So let's start with relaxation. Of course, the first step is to relax. Who wants to tense up right away? There are no fools among us. Nobody wants to feel tension, so we start with relaxation. So we take relaxation in our hand. You can take a tennis ball or any other ball of about the same size. Choose the softness according to your own preference. And now our task is to carefully work on the area between the 12th rib and the iliac bone. This is the gap where our quadratus lumborum muscle is located. And if someone does manage, they'll get a little bit onto the iliopsoas muscle right here. If you first relax the quadratus lumborum muscle well. So at the same time, you see, with this technique, you can relax both the quadratus lumborum and the iliopsoas. We relax the 12th rib and the iliac bone between them. This is where we place the ball. The first method is near the wall. So we stand with the wall behind us, leaning between the ball and my quadratus lumborum muscle. Here it is. One, just like this here. There you go. You felt a certain pressure of the ball on the quadriceps muscle. If your muscle is in good condition. Well, this doesn't happen very often, but what if you don't really feel any pain or discomfort? But if it's a bit tense, if there are some areas where it's shortened, for example, you might feel a little discomfort, maybe even some pain. If it hurts, reduce the pressure. If you just feel tension or resistance, you can even make a small movement with a small amplitude back and forth. That's how you work it out. Try to work through this whole area, both under the rib and just above the iliac bone on both sides. So you place the ball right here. If it's quite sensitive, just press and hold. If you don't really feel anything special, you can even do it like this while moving. Right next to the spine, there's also a powerful muscle here. Normally it should be strong, but very often in our daily life it gets weak. And on a magnetic resonance imaging, we see in the cross section that this muscle is being replaced by fat. So-called fatty degeneration of the muscle occurs, and this is the muscle along the spine. It would also be good to work on it with a ball. So, a combination of using at least a ball, self-massage and training. Positive effects on your spine. To be continued. So, basically, you find the muscle near your spine or what's left of it. And you press there with a ball, find the trigger point and hold it. It hurts. Bear with it. It's your own fault. You let your body get to this point now. Suffer. Here you go. Subtitle editor. That's what you deserve, someone might say. But not me. I'm helping you, explaining what to do. That's why, carefully, we keep going slowly. Wiped away the tears. We don't give up. Wipe them out. The main thing is to start getting used to it. To the pain. No, you shouldn't get used to pain. Get used to the effort. So, friends, you've been talking a lot lately, distracting me with your comments. Another way, look, it's the same thing. These are the kind of rollers that exist now. Our domestic industry keeps up with diseases and gives us the opportunity to treat ourselves. You see? And with these interesting little devices, so now we can lie down, you see, without even getting up from the couch. We can afford ourselves some therapy. This kind of self-massage is exactly what we need. So that's it. We work through it this way in the same spot. What did we just do? The quadratus lumborum muscle. We relaxed it a bit. If the spasm is strong, you should start with relaxation. After that, you can try to stretch it, to stretch the quadratus lumborum muscle. Following the logic and the laws of physics and geometry, we need to increase the distance between the iliac bone and the 12th rib. For this, we will use our body's ability to perform a side bend. Thanks to the fact that we can do this, you see, even if we just lean to the side, the distance there already increases. Some of you will even feel a stretch, a sensation of tension like this when you do it. For this, what do? Take your hand, Place your palm like this on the surface you're sitting on. Let's say you have an Italian leather sofa. You place your hand on it like this. And now try to reach right here with your elbow. Try to touch the ostrich leather with your elbow like this right here. And on the opposite side, you already feel the tension. You can feel the stretch. Or you can just sit on a stool. Move your leg a little like this too, so you can put your hand right here. And again, with your elbow. Oh, we're aiming right here. On the other side, everything here will be stretching. If you check while sitting, you can easily see you put your elbow down, but at the same time, your pelvis doesn't lift up like this. The next step for you is to lie on your side like this. Place your legs however is comfortable for you at first. You get up on your forearm, and here too you see the distance between your ribs and your iliac bone increases. Lie like this for a while, just a little. You can feel it starting to stretch there as well. And now look at what you can do with your legs. If your leg, well, in this case, you see my right leg is in front. This will stretch some fibers of the quadratus lumborum muscle. If I now switch my legs, whoa, look, other fibers started stretching. And this is already completely different sensations. Try the third option as well. Put your legs together, the middle part will stretch too. So now we know that the quadratus lumborum muscle has 3 directions of fibers, and by changing the position of the legs, we can stretch each of them. Try it on both sides. Sometimes it pulls a little more on one side than the other. Check it out. Sometimes you don't feel any tension on one side at all, but on the other side it pulls quite a lot. You don't need to worry about mixing up the sides here. That's it. Because you can't make the muscle longer than it can be pathologically longer. You just can't do it. It doesn't stretch endlessly. It won't become longer than it should, even if you keep stretching it. In general, it's not a big deal. Don't worry, don't be afraid. Iliopsoas muscle. One way to stretch it is this. Here's an exercise like this. We put one leg forward, the other leg goes back on the toe, and the toe is pointing forward. Don't turn it, otherwise the adductor muscles will be stretched and move forward, leaning on something with your hands. You can straighten your back here, but if your lower back gets tense, when you do that, it's better to bend it. Widen the distance between your legs. For some, it'll be small, for others, larger. And if you feel a stretch right here, in the front of your thigh, it means you're doing everything right. If you don't feel it, you're probably still doing it right. You just don't feel it. It's kind of hard to make a mistake here. The only thing is, if you put your leg like this, it might not stretch the right way. Put it on your toes like this. Now it will both stretch and relax. So friends, now the glute. Finally, we spent so long stretching and relaxing just to finally tense up. So friends, one of the best exercises for training the gluteal muscles. Well, one of those that, will load the glute pretty well. And basically, they're safe. We lie on our back, rest our feet, and lift our pelvis up. At the same time, the glute muscles normally tense up. But in some people, they're so weak that they might not tense at all. To do this, tense it intentionally at the highest point. If you check with your hands and it's already firm, then you don't need to tense it further. Lower it, lift it, check if the glute muscle is tense or not, then lower it again. Here, the position of the knees and feet. Here, the most important thing is that your knee is not turned inward from the heel. It can be a little outward, it can be in line, but not like this. Here. So there are different types of this exercise. The first is the regular standard one.
Your feet are in a comfortable position for you, about shoulder width apart, and your knees are about the same. And in this position, you lift your pelvis up, lower it, lift it, lower it. If you're new to this exercise, start here. Next, there are various ways to make it more challenging. The first thing you can try is to put your feet together, spread your knees a little to the sides, and in this position also lift and lower. This is the first option you can add. The next option is to bring your feet closer together again. Lift your pelvis and now try to bring your knees together and then spread them apart but without lowering your pelvis. That means our pelvis stays lifted the whole time. So you lift up and now in this position, bring your knees together, spread them apart, and together, apart, together, apart. If you feel your lower back starting to tense up while doing this, it means it's too early for you to do this exercise. Go back to the previous options. That's when you lift your pelvis up, lower it, lift it up, lower it. Of course, there's also a more advanced exercise. That's for well-trained athletes. That's where you lift yourself up like this on one leg while holding the other. But that's not for those who have lower back pain, because you need to be careful with these exercises. You might get a cramp or something here. That's why you need to do everything step by step, gradually. To start, you simply begin with a basic standard exercise where you keep your feet shoulder width apart and your knees also shoulder width apart. You lift up, then lower down. If it becomes easy to do, then you can bring your knees a bit closer together and do it in this position. And then you add movement in your knees, but make sure your lower back doesn't get tense. Well, my friends, so we've dived into the world of glute muscles, and now we're coming up between the glutes. Almost completely different people now, healthy, with renewed lower backs and smiles on our faces. And that's why we're writing down your impressions about our adventure, and what can I say? We do sports, we help our parents. Until next time, dear friends, in the comments, let us know who you are, where you're from.